Read. Hi, I'd like to welcome somebody that's just so near and dear to my heart. Her name is Shannon Kenitz, and she is the director of M.A.P.S, Medical Academy Pediatric of Special Needs. Thank you for being here today, Shannon.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristen.
Well, I know your story, but before we get started, I want to talk about M.A.P.S and really what that is. But before we do, I want to talk about your story of, how did your journey begin?
Well, as you know, I have two beautiful daughters, Lily and Grace, and my youngest daughter, Grace, has had a pretty challenging life. She has a very rare mitochondrial disease, one of 5 children in the world with her disease, and we were given, no hope to, for Grace's survival. She was on life support for the first few years of her life, and the doctors told us that we needed to take her home and take her off life support and, say goodbye to our daughter. And as a mom, I couldn't imagine doing that, and I just started going on the internet, started searching out different organizations and different physicians, and just tried to find anything that I could find that would help my daughter Grace, basically before I let her go. So I got into all of this because of her and her disease, and one thing just led to another. I found an incredible therapy called hyperbaric oxygen therapy that literally saved her life and saved our family's life. And
well, what is hyperbaric oxygen therapy?
So hyperbaric therapy is when you go into a chamber and we're forcing oxygen into your cells on a cellular level. So it gets into the cells that maybe aren't already getting oxygen, or because of an injury or because of something that's going on. And so by forcing oxygen into the cells on a cellular level, you start to pick up and do the things that you would normally do. And so with Grace's, situation, she was blind, seizures, feeding tube at the age of 3, only weighed 15 pounds on a good day, and, didn't know that I was her mom, didn't know she had a sister. So, I took her out of the hospital against medical advice, took her to Florida to start hyperbaric therapy. And to be honest, I'm a psychologist by trade. I did it because I just wanted to know that I did everything as her mom before I let her go, so that I could be a good mom to my other daughter, Lily. And for us, it was an amazing thing because it literally saved her life and it saved our family's life. And today,
how old is she now?
She's going to be turning 21 years old in March. Yeah, no seizures, no feeding tube. She can swim, she can bike, she is sassy. But the most important thing that I got out of any of that was that I have a daughter that's present, a daughter that when I'm on the road traveling like this, her therapist will call me, she gets on the phone and she'll say, "Mama, love you," and she knows what that means. And that's all as a parent that you really want, right? Is you want your child to be happy no matter what other things are going on with their life. You want them to be happy and to know that they're loved. And I know that she's happy, and I know that she knows she's loved.
And you have a relationship with her, and
I do.
That's what the doctor said was not possible.
Right.
And so now your journey, let's fast forward, she's going to be 21, which seems like not even possible.
Right.
But so let's fast forward. You have done hundreds and hundreds of lectures worldwide, and you have helped thousands and thousands of families with your story of inspiration. And now you're the director of M.A.P.S. Let's talk about, what is M.A.P.S?
So M.A.P.S is the Medical Academy of Pediatric and Special Needs. And what I love so much about M.A.P.S is that I wish we had an organization like this around 21 years ago when I was searching for something. But these are physicians, phenomenal physicians, extraordinary human beings that have left traditional medicine, knowing that there's other things out there that can help children with chronic illness. And so it's a group of physicians that come together, they get training, they go through a fellowship program, and they get taught things about immunology, about your metabolism, about how diet affects your brain, how it affects your growth, and they teach that to each other, and then they take it back to their patients. And when I took over as executive director of M.A.P.S, I think that we were only in maybe 5 or 6 countries. Now we have trained physicians in 52 countries.
Wow.
A lot of third world countries, which obviously is very dear to me, that families don't have the same opportunities that we have here in the U.S. So it's been an amazing journey.
And these doctors, for families to understand, these are doctors who might have been in practice for 10, 20, 30 years. Mm-hmm. And especially, as you were saying, we wish we had this 21 years ago, right?
Yes.
And these are doctors who have to kind of get out of their bubble and their comfort zone.
Yes.
And they have to basically do a whole other kind of fellowship, right?
Yes, absolutely. And they do. And a lot of them will come here and they'll be like, I don't want to go in the foundation, Shannon. You know me. You've known me for 20 years. And I'll be like, you know what? Even like the Dr. Bradstreets and the Dr. Kartznows and the Roswells of the world are going through the foundations. And when they come out of that foundations course, they're like, wow, Shannon, we're really glad that you made us go through it, because there was things we forgot, or things that were like, oh, wow, we really could do this. And one thing that I really love about M.A.P.S is that the physicians get tested. So, you know, there's so many organizations out there that you can go to, and you go to like one conference and then you say that you're a specialist in treating special needs. And as a parent, we have to really like decipher who really knows what, because I'm sure that you felt it with your son going into a doctor's office and you know more than the physician, you know, and we're trying to stop that from happening. We want a parent to be able to go into a physician's office and feel like, wow, I got what I needed from that physician, and not walk out going, well, crap, I knew just as much as the doctor knew, right?
Yeah.
And so they get tested. They take a written test and they have to pass. And then after they go through the whole curriculum, they spend a few days in clinic doing like a clinical rotation like you would in a regular medical school and residency. And then our fellows have to sign off on them. So it's not just come to one M.A.P.S conference and then all of a sudden you're an expert in treating chronic illness with children. And so that's another thing that I really like, because there's so many things out there that us parents, we have to really gauge what's working and not working, and you know, and so I like the fact that I can truly sit down with a parent that calls into the hotline and be like, listen, this doctor's amazing. They know what they're talking about, and I feel confident in what I'm saying to that parent because I know what it felt like to be there 20 years ago.
Well, and I think for families watching right now, it's so important to be able to find a M.A.P.S doctor, because I know for me as a parent, if you just go to a traditional doctor and your child has, let's say, autism, and let's say your child's constipated, they're not going to think of anything other than, well, maybe give them a laxative, or, you know, that might be typical for autism. I've heard that. Like, oh, they just have autism. We see a lot of kiddos with constipation. But that is not the case, as you know.
Yeah.
There's other stuff going on. And so we need to figure out how to, like, you know, dive deeper into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what I love about M.A.P.S doctors is that they really don't say, oh, your child has autism and that's why they're constipated.
Right.
They're going to figure out what the heck is going on with that gut. They're going to run the proper tests. And for those watching, these are tests that families typically would not get at a general doctor's office.
No.
And they're going to be able to help heal the child from the inside out. And when I say heal, you know, I don't want people saying, oh, you're saying the word recovery, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
No, it's really about if a child can feel good, a child can do good. If the child happens to get their diagnosis of whatever that is taken off, okay.
Yeah.
we'll be okay with that, right?
Right. I mean, and I think that there's such a stigma to that a lot of times too, right? Because like there's so many times when I am speaking around the country and people ask me about Grace, or I'll show them pictures and they'll, you know, we'll talk about different things and they're like, well, you know, your daughter is, you know, she's still in pull-ups, or your daughter, you know, she doesn't talk to you, carry on a conversation. And I'm like, you're right, she doesn't. And as much as I would love to have a fight with Grace and engage in like words and conversation, I don't have that. But guess what? You know, 20 years ago, I had a child that laid in a bed that on a good day at age 3 weighed 15 pounds. She was blind, would have 100 to 300 seizures an hour, had to be kept warm under a heat lamp, couldn't walk, couldn't talk, had a feeding tube, and had no idea she was my mom. So, you know, the fact that I was able to get rid of all the tubes and take her to a park without having people say, what's wrong with her? Why does she have all these tubes? You know, that was the biggest thing for me, just getting rid of one little thing.
And now she goes swimming.
Now she goes swimming, and she swims not even with like any help. She has her noodles, she kicks around, she can swim like 5 lengths of the pool without anything. And you know, yeah, she's not going to be completely like my daughter Lily, but man, she's happy. And she's healthy, and her laugh is so contagious, and she's just beautiful inside and out. And you know, who's anybody to say what somebody's life's supposed to be like, right? And so for me, I just look at it like I'm Grace's voice right now until she can have her own voice. And I'm just incredibly, you know, privileged and incredibly blessed and very lucky that I got to be chosen to be her mom.
Well, what's so inspiring about your story is that, you know, where Grace started to where she is now, and everything they said she wasn't going to be able to do, she's climbing this ladder, and she's going to keep on climbing. And I think that for all of our kids, right? We want them to shoot for the stars. And when somebody tells you they can't and they try to smash you down or say, this is the best they're ever going to be, people need to walk away from those doctors.
They do.
They really do, because here's my thing. If they don't have a crystal ball to tell me what's going to happen for the rest of their life, like I don't even know what we're going to have for lunch later today, let alone what somebody's life's going to be like in 20 years. And that's what's so amazing about M.A.P.S doctor. So how does somebody find a M.A.P.S doctor?
Well, you can go to medmaps.org, and then you can click on physicians. There's a tab, and it'll go through state by state, and then it also lets you know like what they specialize in. So like if you have a child that's really you need like a GI expert, there's somebody that they know everything that we teach at M.A.P.S, that they really specialize in GI, that will be noted on there. Or if you're really looking for a doctor that immunology is your issue, you need to do IVIG, you'll see all that on there. So that's what I like about it, is that you can like pick and choose. You're like, okay, right now we're really working on this. So I really want to go to this doctor. But even if you just pick one in your area, they're so well trained that they could do everything. But like for me, I'm always like, okay, well, I want to go to the best of GI, even though I know all M.A.P.S doctors know GI. Like I'm going to go to this one because I know that this person's doing X, Y, and Z. So you kind of get to see what they do. Plus, it lists all the different things they do in their office, like hyperbarics, IV chelation, fecal transplant, B12 injections, all those other types of things. So it's nice that you were able to like look at their profile and be like, oh, that'd be a good fit for them.
Well, and that's what I think it's so important for families to know. Many of them will say, I went to my pediatrician and they gave me a pamphlet, if they even got that. And a lot of people don't understand that having that diagnosis of autism, that doesn't mean that you don't have other diagnoses, right? So, for example, my son has epilepsy. He has mitochondrial disease characteristics, is what they call it, right? He has celiac, and the list goes on. And I think often when you just get that label autism,
right, people
kind of stop there. And they don't dig, like as we said earlier, they don't dig deeper. So for a family right now that's watching and they're thinking, gosh, I didn't know that there was this kind of thing, or they're feeling a little bit helpless, or they're feeling lost, like, okay, now what, right? What message can you leave for them?
Well, one of the first things I'd say, especially if you're going to air this anytime soon, would be the fact that you have an incredible summit. Like your education summit for the families is absolutely amazing, and you've done a brilliant job. And so I just want to say thank you for that, because you are reaching so many countries and so many parents that cannot afford to go to an in-person conference. They can't afford to pack up and leave their children, but they can do it now online through your, the Hope Summit. And so that's what I would definitely direct them towards your educational piece, because you're giving them a lot of information that they need without having to be in a doctor's office, which sometimes people have to save until they can get somewhere, correct? And then I would just be like, surround yourself by positive people. When somebody's, doctors are practicing medicine, and that's, when I used to like speak, and I would speak a lot of times to I'd go to medical schools, they'd hire me to come in and talk to the graduates, and I'd say to them, as you're going into your residency, please just remember this. Remember that when you get your degree and on your plaque, it says that a medical doctor is practicing medicine, meaning that you're practicing. So you don't know if everything that you're doing is going to be right. You don't know if everything that you're doing is going to be the right thing, that you're practicing just like anybody else has to practice, and there's always errors in practice, right? And so they tell parents, make sure that you really remember that even though in our brains we're taught very early on to listen to our doctors, that whatever they say we need to do, whatever they tell us to take, we need to take. That's not true. And I definitely see that shift, where parents are taking it into their own hands, which we shouldn't have to, but I'm glad I see more parents taking, the necessary steps to be able to be those advocates for their children. But put yourself around positive people. You can go to AHA's website. You can go to the International Hyperbaric website. I have a parent resource page on there, and just find a group of people, put yourself in front of them, and get rid of the people in your life that are negative, that are going to drain your energy. And I had to do that. My story. I had to do that with a lot of my family in the beginning. They wanted me to pull life support, and I said, if you're not with me, then you need to leave the room, because I'm making a decision to try to do the best I can to save my daughter's life. I hold no ill feelings, but I can't have you being negative, because I need every bit of energy I possibly have to go towards my daughter. And those family members, I love them. They're still my family members, and we're very close today. But for that part of my life, they weren't able to be a part of it, because we had different beliefs, and that's okay. And just to know that. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel like you've lost something, because you did. So I always tell parents, make sure that you mourn, but don't sit in that mourning. Get up and do something about it, because your child needs you. you know, and then take care of yourself, be healthy, so that you can be there for your kids with special needs. But just never give up hope, because if you have hope, anything's possible, right? And if you don't have hope, then nothing's possible.
I love that, yeah, and I still, you know, and you and I talk often, and the protocols that are coming out, or the new stuff that's coming out, like my son's 17, and just yesterday we found a new treatment for one of his anxiety issues, and we were just like, what? Like, so that's what when people are listening, just realize, like, these doctors, these amazing M.A.P.S doctors, they're not giving up.
No, they're not.
They're making sure they're trying to find everything they can to help our kiddos, and we don't know what, maybe right now there might not be something like this new thing I found, you know, I didn't even know existed.
Right.
And so maybe it didn't exist 5 years ago, but it exists today. So we don't even know what 5 years from now.
Don't, right.
And to me, I get so excited about that, because I feel like, you know, like your daughter and like my son and like so many other kiddos out there, when you say, you know, hope, with hope anything's possible, that is so true. So
It's my favorite word.
I like mine too. Well, again, so they want to find you guys, they can go to medmaps.org.
Yep.
And gosh, Shannon, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I love coming and visiting with you.
And thank you for all the inspiration you're giving to all the families around the world.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, and everyone listening, until next time, thanks guys. Bye. Awesome.